ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera bagi kita semuanya. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed participants of this seminar, welcome to the International Seminar of Crime Control Policy in Urban Areas. My name is Indah Sopamena, and I stand here with honor and immense pleasure to you all as your master of ceremony to today's seminar. Now, before we start with the event, may I please invite you all to stand up and pay tribute to our heroes by singing the Indonesian national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Everyone, you are now allowed to sit down. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, after such a beautiful tribute to our heroes by singing the national Indonesian anthem, I invite everyone here to be one in mind, body, and spirit as we praise our Almighty God through a prayer that will be led by our assigned person today.
Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati dan peserta seminar yang saya cintai dan banggakan, sebelum kita memulai kegiatan, izinkan saya dalam kesempatan ini memimpin doa secara Islam kepada Bapak Ibu dan peserta sekalian, dimohon untuk menyesuaikan sesuai dengan agama dan keyakinan masing-masing. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين على كل حال. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. قل اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, di hari Jumat yang paling mulia ini, Sayyidul Ayyam, kami akan mengadakan kegiatan seminar internasional yang sesaat lagi akan dimulai. Ya Allah, jadikanlah kegiatan kami sebagai kegiatan yang Engkau ridhoi, Engkau berkahi, dan Engkau bukakan pintu-pintu kebaikan atasnya. Ya Alim, Ya Wahhab, tambahkanlah ilmu pengetahuan atas kegiatan yang kami laksanakan, dan jadikanlah kegiatan ini sebagai bagian amal ibadah buat kami. Ya Ghaffar, ampunilah dosa, kesalahan, dan kekhilafan apabila di dalam kegiatan ini ada hal-hal yang tidak Engkau ridhoi, baik tindakan kami maupun ucapan lisan kami. Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa illan taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azabannar. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Hadirin yang saya hormati, izinkanlah saya untuk membawa doa ini dalam agama Kristen. Mari kita berdoa. Maha besar Tuhan Allah Bapa di surga, Allah dalam Yesus Kristus Tuhan dan Juru Selamat kami. Perkenankanlah kami menaikkan puji dan syukur kehadirat kekudusan-Mu, karena oleh kasih dan pimpinan-Mu, pada saat siang hari ini kami boleh berkumpul bersama di lembaga ini untuk dapat mengikuti seminar internasional. Untuk itu pada kesempatan ini ya Bapa, menyadari sungguh bahwa seluruh kegiatan ini boleh dapat terlaksana hanya oleh karena kasih dan penyertaan-Mu, dan didukung oleh berbagai pihak yang telah menopang kami. Untuk itu Bapa, pada kesempatan ini, perkenankanlah kami untuk mendoakan para pemimpin kami. Kami berdoa kepada Rektor Universitas Patimura dengan seluruh jajaran kepemimpinan yang ada. Diberkatilah mereka semua Tuhan dalam pelaksanaan tugas dan tanggung jawab mereka, memimpin dan membawa lembaga pendidikan Universitas Patimura ke arah yang lebih baik dan lebih maju, sehingga dapat berdiri bersama bersaing dengan para universitas lainnya di seluruh Indonesia. Pada kesempatan ini juga ya Tuhan, perkenankanlah kami untuk mendoakan pimpinan Fakultas Universitas Patimura, pimpinan Fakultas Hukum Universitas Patimura, Pak Dekan bersama seluruh wakil dekan dan seluruh jajaran kepemimpinan yang ada. Berikanlah kepada para pemimpin kami hati seorang hamba, agar supaya mereka dapat memimpin dan menuntun lembaga pendidikan Fakultas Hukum Universitas Patimura untuk lebih maju ke depan, bersaing bersama dengan universitas-universitas yang lain di seluruh Indonesia. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, pada kesempatan ini ya Tuhan, kami sadar sungguh bahwa pelaksanaan seminar internasional ini dapat berlangsung atas kerjasama yang baik dari panitia pelaksana seminar internasional. Untuk itu pada kesempatan ini, doa kami menyertai Ketua Panitia bersama seluruh rekan-rekan yang ada, yang selama ini dalam kurun waktu hampir 2 bulan, bekerja sama, bekerja giat, bekerja baik, melakukan koordinasi dengan para narasumber, para pihak yang turut terkait, sehingga pelaksanaan seminar internasional ini boleh kami lakukan di hari ini. Diberkatilah semua mereka, Ibu Ketua dan rekan-rekan, dalam tugas dan tanggung jawab, dalam pekerjaan, dalam rumah tangga, sesuai dengan porsi mereka masing-masing. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, pada kesempatan ini juga ya Tuhan, kami mau berdoa, kami menyerahkan seluruh rangkaian kegiatan seminar internasional ini ke dalam tangan Tuhan. Kami mau berdoa bagi para narasumber, baik yang sudah ada bersama-sama dengan kami, maupun yang ada di negeri Belanda dan India. Diberkatilah kehidupan masing-masing mereka, pribadi mereka, tugas dan tanggung jawab mereka, karier mereka, kami serahkan ke dalam tangan Tuhan. Bahwa di hari ini, mereka akan membagikan ilmu pengetahuan yang telah mereka miliki. Mereka akan mentransferkan itu kepada kami, Bapa. Diberkatilah mereka, dan apa yang akan mereka taburkan di hari ini dapat menambah hasana pemikiran kami sebagai para akademisi hukum. Terima kasih banyak Bapa di sorga. Pada kesempatan ini juga doa kami menyertai para moderator, terlebih Pak Harli yang akan memandu seluruh rangkaian acara ini. Berikanlah kepada Pak Harli kekuatan, kearifan, kebijakan, kemampuan, agar supaya ia dapat memandu acara ini dari awal sampai akhir dalam tuntunan dan campur tangan Tuhan. Allah Bapa di sorga, semua pihak terkait, penata multimedia, sound system, semua peralatan yang kami gunakan pada kesempatan ini, kami taruh di dalam tuntunan Tuhan. Kami percaya bahwa tidak ada suatu pun yang dapat menghalau kami. Kami percaya bahwa seluruh kegiatan ini akan berlangsung dalam tuntunan Tuhan, dan kami tidak akan gagal karena kami berjalan bersama dengan Allah Sang Pencipta. Terima kasih Tuhan, inilah seluruh doa kami yang boleh kami bawa ke hadapan Bapa di sorga dengan mengundang Allah hadir dalam Yesus Kristus dalam tuntunan kuasa Roh Allah yang kudus. Berkatilah semua kami Tuhan, dan kami mohon berkat daripada-Mu. Kiranya kasih setia dari Allah Bapa dalam Yesus Kristus, dalam tuntunan kuasa Roh Allah yang kudus, berkenan menyertai semua kami, menyertai seluruh rangkaian kegiatan ini, dari awal sampai dengan akhirnya. Dalam nama Yesus kami berdoa. Amin.
Thank you so much for the wholesome prayers that the members of our staff, of the law faculty staff, has given to us. May the Lord's blessing grace us throughout this whole seminar, and also every member that has successfully made this seminar a dream come true. Now, let us hear from Dr. Yanti Amelia Leverisa, SHMH, as the head committee to give a report regarding this wonderful seminar. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. To the Honorable Chancellor of Pattimura University, represented by Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Dean of the Faculty of Law, the speakers, invite guests, seminar participants, and all of the audience who we are proud of. First of all, let us give thanks to the presence of God Almighty, because with His permission, today we can gather here to attend an international seminar organized by the Law Study Program, Law Faculty, Pattimura University. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme we raise in this international seminar is crime control policy in urban areas. Crime can occur in all places and situations, including in Indonesia and Maluku in particular. For this reason, there must be understanding for crime control and crime prevention, which are part of the scope of social control. Social control is a mechanism to influence the behavior of individuals or social groups so that it is aligned with the norms and the expectations of the group, with the aim of shortening serene social harmony. In relation to this theme, we present international and national speakers, namely Dr. Anders Bas van den Tilaar, the Mayor of Vlissingen from the Netherlands. Professor Dr. Sambu Prasad Chakrabarti, LLM, LLB, PhD from University of Engineering and Management, Calcutta, India. Professor Yvette Tinsley from the Faculty of Law, Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. But unfortunately, she cannot join with us today. And last but not least, Professor Adrianus Meliala, MSc PhD, criminologist from University of Indonesia. Each of these extraordinary speakers will present their material before all of us so that they can add to our knowledge, especially with regard to urban crime. Participants who attend this seminar were 1,000 participants, consisting of undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral students, as well as practitioners and the general public. The seminar can be held with the help with various parties. For this reason, on this occasion, allow us to thank the Chancellor of Pattimura University and his staff, the Dean of Faculty of Law, Pattimura University and his staff, as well as all parties that we cannot mention day one by one, who have participated in this seminar. We also convey our highest appreciation to all the committee members who have worked hard for the success of the seminar. We realize that the organization on the seminar still has many shortcomings, both in terms of event presentation, administrative services, and limited facilities. For that, we apologize profusely. Finally, I hope that all seminar participants who attend will benefit greatly from the seminar. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om. Namo Buddhaya. Salam kebajikan.
Now, thank you so much, Dr. Yanti, for such an insightful report for today's seminar. And what an amazing showcase of our traditional dance, the Sao Reka Reka dance. Now, to move on, I would like to invite the Vice Chancellor of Fatimura University, Professor Dr. Fedi Wakawesi, MPD. Because nothing can be more reassuring and heartwarming than affectionate words of welcome. So to formally welcome us, Professor, the floor is yours.
mengawali sambutan ini, kami menyampaikan permohonan maaf dari Pak Rektor karena dalam tugas beliau keluar daerah, sehingga kami ditunjuk untuk mewakili beliau menyampaikan sambutan sekaligus membuka internasional seminar dari Fakultas Hukum Universitas Patimura di saat ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam sehat, Hotu Mese. Nah, mohon maaf saya menyampaikan pidato ini dalam bahasa Indonesia saja. Semoga kita semua boleh mengikutinya dengan baik. Yang kami hormati Wakil Rektor Bidang Umum dan Keuangan, Dr. Yance Ciptabudi, SHMH, yang informasinya SK Guru Besarnya sudah ada. Ya, beberapa waktu kita berikan aplaus untuk Pak Wanjon. Ya. Yang kami hormati Prof. Adrianus Meliala, MSI, MSc, PhD, Criminolog of Indonesian University. Ini sering kita cuma bisa lihat di layar televisi. Hari ini beliau hadir di tempat ini, luar biasa. Kita beri aplaus untuk beliau. Ya. Yang kami hormati Kepala Kepolisian Daerah Maluku, Dirjen Pol Lotharia Latif atau yang mewakili. Yang kami hormati Kepala Kejaksaan Tinggi Maluku atau yang mewakili. Yang kami hormati Mayor of Vlissingen, the Netherlands, Dr. Anus Bas van der Tilaar. Yang kami hormati Dan of Law Engineering and Management University, Calcutta, India, Profesor Dr. Sambu P. Caktabarti, LMM, LLB. Yang kami hormati Kepala Kantor Wilayah Hukum dan HAM Maluku, Pak Anwar, Pejabat Wali Kota Ambon atau yang mewakili, Ketua Pengadilan Negeri Ambon atau yang mewakili, Dekan Fakultas Hukum Universitas Kristen Indonesia Maluku, Pak Dr. John Pasalbesi, dan Dekan Fakultas Hukum Universitas Patimura, Pak Dr. Rory Akiwen, teman saya yang baik hati ini. Ya, kita berikan aplaus buat beliau. Ya. Ketua International Office, Dr. Wilma Latuni, PhD, dan Bapak Ibu hadirin peserta seminar, para wakil dekan Fakultas Hukum, para dosen, seluruh mahasiswa, baik yang mengikuti secara luring di tempat ini maupun lewat aplikasi Zoom daring, yang kami kasihi dan yang kami banggakan. Kita patut bersyukur kepada Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa karena waktu dan kesempatan ini diberikan bagi kita lagi untuk berdialog, berdiskusi, mendapat informasi yang luar biasa hari ini tentang kebijakan penanggulangan kejahatan di wilayah perkotaan. Dan kami melihat bahwa para narasumber yang diundang ini luar biasa sebagai pakar di bidang kriminologi dan juga praktisi, tetapi juga memiliki data-data yang luar biasa tentang kejahatan di kota. Tapi pertanyaan saya ketika membaca tema ini, kenapa cuma diskusi tentang penanggulangan kejahatan di wilayah perkotaan, tidak di wilayah pedesaan atau di wilayah kepulauan? Nah, karena kita punya kejahatan bukan cuma di kota ya, di desa juga mungkin ada dan dibawa ke kota, atau di daerah kepulauan dan juga dibawa ke kota begitu. Tapi tentu saja ada tujuan dan dasar yang filosofis lain sehingga tema ini diangkat. Tapi saya yakin kita juga akan berdiskusi banyak tentang hal-hal yang mungkin kejahatan di pedesaan dan juga kejahatan di wilayah kepulauan. Dan karena basis kita ini di wilayah kepulauan, dan kita tahu bahwa begitu banyak juga masalah-masalah kriminal di daerah di kepulauan ini kepada tenaga-tenaga kerja, baik yang ada di kapal-kapal ikan, penangkapan, dan juga kejahatan eksploitasi sumber daya laut yang begitu tidak bisa terkontrol. Mungkin juga ini bisa dilihat dalam diskusi-diskusi ke depan. Kenapa seminar internasional ini penting, dan kami melihat Fakultas Hukum selalu mengawali, menginisiasi, karena program-program seminar seperti ini, setiap fakultas itu diharuskan untuk melakukan seminar internasional, di mana hasil-hasil kajian, hasil-hasil penelitian dari para dosen, dari para pakar, bisa kita diskusikan, dan ide-ide itu kemudian bisa dilanjutkan, diteliti oleh mahasiswa, baik pada strata 1, strata 2 maupun strata 3, yang tentu Fakultas Hukum memiliki jenjang kependidikan yang ada seperti itu. Dan ini penting karena seperti kita ketahui, bicara tentang hukum ini dari masih dalam kandungan sampai masuk liang lahat masih bicara tentang hukum. Karena itu kita perlu berdiskusi banyak. Dan ide-ide penelitian, ide-ide kajian, buku-buku ajar, dan lain sebagainya itu perlu diperkaya. Dan hari ini saya yakin informasi akan diberikan, akan memberi penambahan wawasan, khazanah ilmu pengetahuan untuk kemajuan institusi di Unpati, maupun dalam rangka melihat masalah-masalah kriminal secara umum di daerah, di perkotaan, maupun di Indonesia dan secara internasional. Kami pikir ini yang bisa kami titip bagi kita semua. Semoga kita tidak hanya seminar, tetapi setelah itu ada actionnya di lapangan. Dan ada ide-ide yang muncul untuk bisa diteliti lebih jauh, untuk dipublikasikan. Ya, hal-hal yang sifatnya novelty di daerah-daerah kita, di perkotaan, di kota-kota kecil seperti kota Ambon, tetapi juga dibarengi dengan persoalan-persoalan hukum-hukum adat, hukum-hukum lain yang juga mungkin bisa memperkaya khazanah pengetahuan kita, dan itu bisa diangkat menjadi ide riset untuk dipublikasikan di jurnal-jurnal yang bereputasi. Kami titip ini bagi kita semua, semoga dengan seminar ini kita akan bisa lebih meningkatkan tridharma perguruan tinggi kita, baik pendidikan, pengajaran, penelitian, dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat. Terima kasih, semoga seluruh rangkaian acara ini berlangsung dari awal hingga akhir dalam pimpinan dan pemberkatan dari Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa. Demikian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, salam sejahtera, shalom, Om Santi Santi Om, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Untuk membuka acara ini kami mohon Pak Dekan dan Pak WR2, Ketua Panitia, mungkin bisa mendampingi untuk kita sama-sama membuka acara ini secara resmi. Ya.
Thank you so much, Professor, for such encouraging, kind words and also the prayers that you've given to us. Now, we would like to invite our keynote speaker, the Dean of the Law Faculty in Patimura University, our beloved Dr. Rory Jeff Akiwen, SHM Home.
Selamat siang menjelang sore. Saya minta maaf, saya akan berbicara dalam bahasa Inggris. Bahasa Indonesia, mohon maaf. Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita sekalian. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang terhormat Wakil Rektor Bidang Akademik, Prof. Freddy Lokabesi. Ini saingan saya, Prof. Nanti kita akan bertarung pada saat pemilihan rektor di 2023. Tetapi kami tetap berteman, tetap baik, sekalipun nanti kita menjadi rival. Nah, tapi ini demi kemajuan Universitas Patimura. Yang terhormat juga ini profesor baru kita, agak sedikit sombong nih. Sebetulnya bukan sombongnya yang kedua, Prof. Meliala, tapi yang sombong dekan. Kenapa? Karena target saya sudah melebihi mantan dekan yang cuma 3, kita sudah mulai masuk 4, bahkan mungkin 5 dan 6 di akhir jabatan saya di periode kedua. Yang terhormat juga Prof. Meliala, kemudian yang mewakili Kajati, Kapolda, narasumber Meneer Bas Tilar, Wali Kota Vlissingen, narasumber dari Kalkuta maupun juga dari New Zealand. Nah, ada cerita Prof. Meliala kenapa hari ini kita bicara soal kebijakan penanggulangan tindak kejahatan di perkotaan. Ini hasil kunjungan kami di Vlissingen, Belanda, dan kita ketemu dengan Mayor Bas, dan di situ kita putuskan bahwa untuk tahun 2023 topiknya seperti yang kita akan bicarakan di hari ini, dan tugas itu diberikan kepada bagian hukum pidana. Jadi Pak WR1, kenapa sampai kita hari ini ada diskusi seminar internasional seperti ini, karena itu keputusan kami di sana. Kebetulan yang berangkat juga semua pimpinan fakultas. Iya, 2 hari yang lalu di lingkungan saya, itu terjadi pencurian ponsel di dalam jok motor. Sebelumnya ada pencurian juga yang dilakukan oleh anak-anak muda yang masih SMU, bahkan belum lulus SMU. Kalau dari alasan atau materi-materi yang kita baca, kenapa tindak pidana kejahatan itu dia berlangsung atau dia makin meningkat di sebuah kota? Nah, ada berbagai alasan, faktor ekonomi, faktor-faktor non-ekonomi, dan ada faktor-faktor lain. Ternyata setelah saya amati, yang melakukan tindak pidana kejahatan seperti pencurian ini, mereka punya ekonomi cukup, lumayan, bukan orang miskin. Mereka bersekolah, mereka punya orang tua mampu menyekolahkan mereka. Tetapi setelah ditanya, ditelusuri, ini budaya atau gaya yang Pak Jokowi bilang hedonisme. Mereka ingin memiliki ponsel yang lebih baik atau lebih canggih dari yang mereka miliki. Kejahatan-kejahatan di perkotaan kita belum masuk ke daerah, atau kita namanya mungkin Prof. Meliala lebih tahu. Ada yang namanya tiranopolis. Ya, kota yang sudah tidak bisa lagi, hukum tidak berlaku, moralnya sudah jatuh. Tetapi kita belum masuk ke kelompok, atau kita belum diklasifikasikan kota yang namanya tiranopolis, di mana moral dan juga hukum sudah tidak bisa. Nah, ini membuat saya teringat sebelum saya kuliah. Kalau Prof. Meliala ini kita sudah kenal dari beliau masih doktor, sudah ini kriminolog terkenal, sampai kita udah Saya belum profesor, beliau sudah profesor, kita udah kenal, tadi Pak WR1 sampaikan. Nah, saya teringat, ada kalau Prof mungkin ingat, Prof WR1 juga Pak WR2, Ibu WD3, dan juga Ibu WD1, bahwa dulu ada majalah yang namanya majalah Intisari. Kita berlangganan, itu om-om saya berlangganan. Saya kebetulan suka membaca saat itu, belum kuliah di Fakultas Hukum, SMA. Nah, ada satu penelitian di situ jelas sekali bahwa kenapa tingkat kejahatan itu meningkat di sebuah kota di Eropa atau bahkan di negara-negara Barat. Nah, setelah ditelusuri, ternyata semua pelaku, rata-rata pelaku kejahatan itu punya tampang yang sangat menyeramkan. Nah, tampangnya tipikal kalau kita nonton film, ya memang tampangnya di ini cocok untuk menjadi seorang penjahat. Nah, dari data itu, kemudian ada kerjasama dengan Fakultas Kedokteran setempat, yang melahirkan dokter-dokter yang bisa operasi plastik. Nah, sehingga mereka mempraktekkan operasi itu dengan ke lembaga pemasyarakatan, ke penjara, dan menanyakan siapa yang mau jadi relawan untuk dibedah. Ini fakta, Prof. Milaya pasti tahu. Ini fakta, siapa yang mau dibedah. Nah, setelah dibedah, kemudian itu wajahnya berubah. Tidak lagi tampak sangar, tetapi sudah kelihatan lebih cakep. Saya lebih cakep dari mereka saat itu. Jadi lebih cakep, sehingga membuat mereka merasa percaya diri bahwa mereka tidak akan melakukan kejahatan lagi. Nah, setelah saya masuk kuliah, baru kita belajar kriminologi, saya baru tahu itu yang namanya teori Lombroso. Saya masih ingat sampai mati nih. Sebelum mati, kalau Tuhan tanya pun saya bilang itu teori Lombroso. Saya teringat cerita ini. Nah, apakah faktor-faktor ini juga yang sekarang itu mempengaruhi tindak pidana kejahatan? Nah, kriminologi punya tugas, yaitu untuk membuat model atau pola atau menguji sistem, sehingga tindak pidana kejahatan itu bisa diredam atau ada kebijakan kemudian berujung pada perlindungan kepada masyarakat. Ada kesejahteraan, ya kan? Sosial, apa tuh namanya? Itu lebih tahu. Iya. Nah, ini beberapa di kota Ambon, Pak Prof. Meliala, kita tahu bahwa bapak yang baru datang mungkin di Ambon, di JMP yang kita lewat itu sering terjadi pembegalan. Nah, sering terjadi belakangan ini sudah tidak lagi. Di lingkungan kami, di lingkungan di mana-mana pun terjadi tindak pidana kejahatan seperti itu. Pola yang dipakai. Nah, saya baca-baca ada yang menggunakan FGD. Nah, kita nggak bisa bilang begini bahwa itu tugas kepolisian, ya tugas kejaksaan. Tetapi kalau orang di rumah, orang tua nggak memberikan nasihat yang baik, nggak bisa mengatur atau menata cara hidup anak-anak dengan baik, ya peristiwa ini akan selalu terjadi. Kalau tadi saya bilang mereka mencuri handphone hanya untuk gaya-gayaan, nah ini juga harus peran dari orang tua atau peran dari kampus. Nah, hari ini Fakultas Hukum sudah menyelenggarakan seminar internasional seperti ini, bukan poin yang kita cari, Pak. Tetapi mudah-mudahan para pengajar kriminologi di Fakultas Hukum ini, khususnya di Unpati, dengan hasil seminar ini bisa membuat atau membuat inovasi sehingga ada satu pola yang kita kembangkan di Fakultas Hukum agar bisa meredam atau setidaknya meminimalisir tindak pidana kejahatan di wilayah Kota Ambon. Nah, ini yang sebetulnya yang perlu. Apakah sasarannya anak-anak SMU atau mahasiswa? Terkadang kita hanya melakukan penelitian atau pengabdian kepada masyarakat, melihat hal-hal yang biasa-biasa saja, tetapi ini adalah satu catatan yang saya pikir sebagai pimpinan fakultas kita ke depan harus lebih care, lebih sains lagi, sensitif dengan persoalan-persoalan yang terjadi di kota yang kita cintai, Ambon Manise. Jangan sampai Ambon Manise menjadi tiranopolis. Nah, kalau 99 itu tiranopolis. Kalau saya bisa berpendapat, karena kita sudah nggak tahu ada saling membunuh dan segala macam pada saat konflik itu udah hukum tidak lagi berlaku saat itu. Apakah kota Ambon ini harus menuju tiranopolis atau kita menuju metropolis? Nah, ini menjadi catatan dan mudah-mudahan dari seminar internasional ini ada lahir inovasi-inovasi yang baru, ada pola-pola yang baru atau kita menguji sistem yang baru agar tindak pidana kejahatan di kota yang kami cintai, Kota Ambon Malaysia ini bisa perlahan-lahan dia akan menurun dengan drastis. Saya kira itu beberapa catatan. Saya bukan ahli kriminologi, karena kalau saya berbicara lebih nanti diketawai oleh Prof. Beliala. Tapi kami berharap bahwa di hari ini banyak hal yang kita dapatkan dan kita bisa kembangkan di Fakultas Hukum, terutama juga terlebih di Universitas Patimura yang kami cintai. Sekian dan terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita sekalian. Shalom.
Our beloved Dean, everyone, truly such a magnificent man with charisma that knows no bounds. Now, as we delve into the intricacies of crime control policies in urban communities such as ours, we must remember the ancient proverb, prevention is better than the cure. This old age adage has been with us for such a long time, and it plays such an important role for us when it comes to making the law and making the community so much more safe and so much more secure. Now, throughout the seminar, we aim to foster a collaborative exchange of knowledge and inspiration to every one of us here. We aim for this seminar to be so informative and so much useful for everyone here. And thus, we have assembled a panel of distinguished policymakers, the experts of the law, and so much more. However, it is not my honor to introduce to you who these speakers are. The one who has the honor to introduce to you about these speakers are the newest member of our staff and also happens to be the moderator of the event today. Mr. Harley Salmon, SIMHA, it's your time to shine.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. The Honorable Rector of Patimura University, as a presenter today, the Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, and also Vice Rector of General Affairs. The Dean of Faculty of Law, all the Vices Dean that happen to be here with us here today, and all the respectable lecturer at University Patimura. The respectable invited guests and all the participants that happen to be here with us today. All the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Harley Clifford Salmon, and I'll be your moderator for today's seminar international organized by Criminal Department. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to see you here and welcome all of you into this seminar that happen to participate in here in this room or in the via meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, this seminar is also live and streamed at Fakultas Hukum Unpati YouTube channel. So please don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, and comment down below. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, development of mobilization in urban area, generating a phenomena in society and causing deviant behavior. An anomaly in the development of modern city is a violence, a high-rate crime in territory. Many types of crime happen primarily as a phenomenon that happen in society. Crime is a social symptom that all society has always faced. Understanding the background of crime in Indonesia is mainly oriented by preparators to gain profit. There cannot be separated from a critical analysis of applied development models. Potential to encourage the commission of crimes by victims from the development models, especially in urban area. Crime is caused by several factors such as economic, association, and others opportunities. all the factors that happen in Indonesia has shown adverse effect or negative effect. Critical assessment can be done to know what cause of someone doing a crime using criminology theory. Crime prevention is urban area is an effort to reduce the crime rate in society. Because of that, Faculty of Law, University of Patimura, especially the Criminal Law Department, as a part of educational institution largest in Eastern Indonesia, has made an seminar international today under the theme Crime Control Policy in Urban Area. Ladies and gentlemen, please one more time give applause for our seminar today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin our seminar, as we know that one of our speakers has come to Ambon and join us and be with us today. I would like to invite him to sit next to me. Please, ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome for our one and only Professor Adrianus Meliala. Professor, if you may. Give a applause one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, this seminar will be separated into two main sessions. First session will be where our speaker presented their papers, and the second session will be question and answer session. Each of our speakers have 15 minutes, maximal 20 minutes to present their papers, and after that we will have discussion session. We'll have about 20 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, as for the speakers today, there are three speakers that can join us today. First speaker will be Dr. Rudis Bas van der Tillaar as a mayor of Vlissingen City in Netherlands. Second speaker will be Professor Dr. Shambhu Prasad Chakrabarti, LLM, LLB, as of Dean of Law, Faculty Engineering and Management in Kolkata, India. As of last speaker will be Professor Adrianus Meliala, MSc, PhD, as of Criminology of University of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, because of one reason, our Professor Hugo Tinsley from New Zealand cannot be joining us today. So, without any further ado, with this, we will beginning our first session. And the first session will be from Dr. Bas van der Tillaar, and the topic will be crime in Netherlands. Mr. Dr. Landus Bas van der Tillaar, are you with us?
Good morning to you. Yes, I'm with you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Can you hear us clearly, Professor? Dr. Landus, I mean? Mr. Tillaar, your 20 minutes may begin now.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends in Ambon, thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this conference. Professor Laiwa Kabesi, Professor Akuin, all the attendants, thank you very much. Greetings from the Netherlands and from Vlissingen. It's an honor and a privilege to join you today on your important discussions on crime reduction policy in city areas. Of course, I would have liked very much to visit our sister city and our sister university today, but it's also nice to be able to join you today in this digital way. I will present to you some information about crime and crime reduction policy in the Netherlands. As a mayor in the Netherlands, in Vlissingen City, I have a responsibility in fighting crime in our city, in prevention, and in maintaining public order. course, I do this in close cooperation with National Police of the Netherlands and the Public Prosecutor's Office. I will bring my story from that experience and with my daily tasks in mind. Next slide, please. First of all, I would like to give you some insight in the crime figures in the Netherlands of this moment. And I've picked some numbers which you can see now. The figure shows you the registered crime in the Netherlands in the period of 1975 until 2021. And of course, I should say the vast majority of crime, also of this registered crime, takes place in urban areas. Well, as you can see, certainly the last years, the numbers show a strong decrease. In the last 20 years, the numbers of registered crimes dropped. They dropped with about 46%, as you can see in the figure. And you can see that this decrease in all kinds of crime. You can see them in property crime, so like theft or burglary, or in violent crimes, as we say. And then you should think of terrible things like murder or assault or things like that. So you can see the decrease in both property crime and in violent crime. Numbers dropped with about 46% at this moment. Next slide, please. Could I have the next slide, please? The next figure shows you that it's not all good news, I'm afraid. In particular, the category of online crime, so digital crime, is perhaps not surprising in these digital times that we live in, has shown a sharp rise. In the next figure, you see 3 lines. The green line that I show you is the number of victims of online crime. And the lines below show the numbers of, well, the more traditional crime, like the property crime and the violent crime that I mentioned before. And you can see that the line for online or digital crime, the green line in the figure, it shows an increase, a rise of about 22%. So digital crime is on the rise. Next slide, please. Yeah. Perhaps it's not strange, of course, in this digital times that we can see that much more crime is taking place on the digital channels, and that's what is happening at this moment. And when we talk about this online crime, you must be thinking of, well, you know, hacking of websites, hacking of accounts, ransomware, phishing emails, identity fraud, things like that. That's what is happening more and more. So online crime shows a really strong increase. Next slide, please. Well, I showed you some figures, some graphics, but of course, some warning is appropriate. First of all, as with all figures and numbers, I've shown you figures about registered crime and registered victims. But we must always keep in mind, of course, that that's not the whole picture. Not all victims are known. Not all crimes are registered. So these figures certainly don't show the whole problem. We certainly miss quite a part of it because it's not registered. We should always keep that in mind. Furthermore, there are some deep concerns. In the Netherlands, we have, I would mention 3 concerns that are very important at this moment. First of all, there's a deep concern about growing, as we call it, organized subversive crime. This is crime. This is really, really well organized. There are really big organizations behind it. And we call it subversive because they take advantage of the, well, as I would say, the legal and the official institutions of a country. So let me give you an example of organized subversive crime. I think of financial transactions for money laundering, and they're carried out by companies, by banks. So they use the official infrastructure. Of course, you can think of, let me give another example of organized subversive crime, the use of the infrastructure of a country, the harbors, the airports, for drug transport. Drug trafficking is getting tougher and leading to more excesses. Investing black money in official real estate. That's another example. So we see a growing crime in organized subversive crime. They really try to use the official institutions for this crime. That's one of our great concerns at this moment. A second concern, I would say, is the scale. The scale brings concerns. Crime is increasingly taking place on an international scale. Of course, I would say boundaries mean nothing for criminal organizations. We must cooperate more and more across national borders. And you can see in Europe that much more legislation and policy on crime fighting is made in Europe instead of the individual countries. And a third growing concern in the Netherlands is a concern on social unrest. In the Netherlands, we have growing concerns on social unrest, especially, I would say, since the Corona period. Well, as you well know, and I'm sure that you had the same in Indonesia, in the Corona period, some harsh measures were taken to fight this pandemic. And this led to much resistance and much protest. And we've seen an increase in demonstrations. We have seen an increase in polarization. I would even say that general trust in government is decreasing. And I'm afraid this also has an effect on crime. So with all the numbers I just show you, I would also say there are three growing concerns. We see a rise in organized subversive crime. We see a rise in internationalization. And there's a concern with growing social unrest, especially since the Corona period. That's for the figures. Could I have the next slide, please? Well, our next question should be, can we explain more about the long-term development in criminality rates? Is there an explanation for the shown decline? Well, I would like to point out at least 5 things that could give a bit of an explanation, although it's difficult to give a truly conclusive explanation. I should say that too. First of all, my first explanation would be socioeconomic development. With the increase in prosperity and an increase of income, we see the reason for crime decreasing. That is always very important, the socioeconomic situation. So that is probably one of the explanations for a decrease in the numbers. Second, prevention. You've mentioned it before in all the in this seminar. Prevention is always very important, and government in the Netherlands invests heavily in addressing and preventing crime. Also, very simple, technical improvements. For example, better hardware at homes and at business buildings makes crime more difficult, so figures drop. Also, demography plays a role. The Netherlands is an aging society. We have fewer young people and a higher average age, more older people. So the Dutch society is aging, and and crime seems to be declining. Another possible explanation, I already mentioned the more active role of governments, also with respect to repression. The chance of being caught by the police and also the punishment rate is increasing, and this deters especially smaller crime. Well, all these factors, the socio-economic development, prevention, demography, the active role of government, also sometimes more repression, could explain partly the drop in crime. But I have to say, for me, a conclusive explanation is very difficult. We must continue to search together, which is why it's so good to learn from each other at conferences like you organize today. Could I have the next slide, please? I would mention a few things about tackling crime in the Netherlands, our crime policies. And I would mention three things especially. There is an approach to criminal law. That's the more classic way, of course. There's also an approach through administrative law, as we call in the Netherlands, bestuursrecht. And I would point out, very important, the cooperation by all stakeholders in prevention and repression. This cooperation by stakeholders is very important. I will point out to you. Let me first start with criminal law. Of course, the use of criminal law is well known. The use of administrative law is less well known. Administrative law, administrative measures can be imposed without the intervention of a judge. For instance, mayors, as myself, can take a large number of measures to tackle crime. And let me give some examples of these instruments. An example of administrative law is the use of restraining orders. A person may not enter a certain area for a certain period of time. And these instruments can be used, as I explained, supplementary to criminal law. I can ban a person from an area for some periods. I can point out the use of camera surveillance in certain public areas. That's an example of administrative law, which we use in the Netherlands very much. Another example is what we call the bebop law. If it is suspected that a permit or a license applied for from the local government will be misused for criminal purposes, the government may investigate and finally deny the permit or the license. And this could be, for example, be a thorough financial investigation designed to prevent money laundering or to find black money. So government has all kinds of ways of preventing the misuse of permits and licenses. Another example of administrative law. In the case of domestic violence, for instance, in the Netherlands, the mayor can preemptively impose a house and location bound on the offender. So if there's a case of domestic violence, I can ban the person who did that from his own house or forbid him to come home. And of course, parallel on that, the criminal justice process continues alongside. The goal is then a sort of cooling off period, more safety for the family, and being able to start counseling services. All kinds of ways to use administrative law. Perhaps my last example on administrative law, the war on drugs. The war on drugs is very important in our country. Here we try to use criminal law and administrative law, and of course prevention, side by side. When we catch a perpetrator with drugs, we use criminal law for punishment, but Parallel, we want to take action to restore public order in the environment where the drug trafficking took place. We then have the option of closing a building or a house for a few months. It's also an important signal function to the neighborhood, of course. For instance, we hang posters on the windows of the closed building, so we make it more visible that we take action. So criminal law is important for punishment, but administrative law is aimed more at restoring a lawful situation rather than punishment. Restoring law and order and cooling down. Both instruments can be used complementary to each other. Ideally, I can use both instruments at the same time for the best results. And finally, my third point, cooperation. Cooperation from all involved is becoming more and more important. When dealing with crime, we also take more and more a personal approach. The police, the public prosecution's office, but also care agencies, social services, youth workers, etc., try a collaborative approach in which one of the parties takes the lead. And this is to assure a well-tuned approach, to make sure that all involved do not work against each other, but with each other. And we are still gaining a lot of experience on this action. So, for my next slide, please. In summary, in the Netherlands, crime numbers are decreasing. And that's also visible in other European countries, I would say. On the other hand, there are growing concerns on organized subversive crime, growing concerns on internationalization of crime, which makes it less good possible to act as a country on its own. And there are also signs of a growing social unrest, which has also an effect on crime rates. And not on my sheet, but as I mentioned to you and I've pointed out, we also see an increase in some crime, and especially in the digital crime. And I'm sure that increase in digital crime will continue in the coming times. In combining administrative law and the more classical criminal law, as well as a better cooperation and joint approach of all parties involved, we try to strengthen the tackling of crime. But as I said, we must continue to search together, which is why it's so good to learn from each other at conferences like today and to exchange information. And I'm also very, very interested in the contribution of the other parties and participants in this conference. But I think that the approach on crime will benefit much from a combining of instruments. Criminal law, administrative law, and the good cooperation of all parties involved. Last slide, please. Well, I hope I have given you a small insight in the situation in the Netherlands of this moment, with some numbers and some developments. Thank you for your kind attention. And of course, as the cartoon shows, crime will never pay. That's why we work for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bas. Well, as you know, it's also happening in Indonesia, especially in Ambon, that decreasing of number of crime of conventional crime is also decreasing in Ambon, but the online crime, especially the cyber crime in Ambon, is also increasing at the time. So what you are presenting today is very, very much open our insight. Thank you so much, Mr. Bas. Yes, we will move to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Dr. Shambhu Prasad Chakrabarti, LM, LLB, as of Dean of Law, Engineering and Management, University, Kolkata, India. Professor Shambhu, are you with us? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately that for some reason Professor Sambu leave the Zoom, but he will be joining us back later. So we will proceed into the next speaker. There is Professor Adrianus Meliala, MSc, MSc, PhD, as of Criminologist of Indonesia University. Professor, if you please.
Many thanks, moderator. So first of all, let me express my gratitude to the Dean of Faculty of Law, as well as the whole Civitas Academica of Faculty of Law, Ms. Pakimura. Also, I would
Just using my mic, Professor. Thank you.
and also for the for attending the meeting. Okay, so since I'm the living speaker, yeah, because the other two are still somewhere in the other places, so I have much more freedom in terms of expressing my ideas relating the topic of this seminar, that is on urban problem and crime control. That's the topic that I'm choosing for this presentations. However, there is a continuing title that is a half-hearted situations. Why I emphasize upon half-hearted situations simply because I detect upon the low consensus among city inhabitants, city administrators, even the academic, yeah, who observe, the urban problems in terms of whether or not we really need that kind of urban problems. What's actually urban problems? Yeah, and should we stop the city from growing, for example? Yeah, and on the other hand, sometimes we are not really clear in terms the following effect that comes from the consequences of having a big city, for example. Yeah, so that's why I'm using the terminology of half-hearted situations, simply to describe there is low consensus, even ambiguity among us regarding those two very important concepts. Now I'm straight to the chat slides of me. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is very common to see city inhabitants like ourselves, yeah, for dreaming having a bigger city, having a more complex infrastructure, having more public transportations, yeah, a better public facilities. We have hospitals everywhere. We have good malls everywhere. We have movies, yeah, that having a very latest TV show, something like that. Yeah, we really need that kind of, and it's very common situation, because if we want to have a tranquil, lonely situation, then why don't we go to the village? Yeah, why don't we go just to the remote areas? Yeah, so we deserve to have that kind of facility simply because we live in a city, right? However, here we are. There is implications that we are not aware of. That is, in all development in regard to any aspect of urban life, there is an impact. There is a cost that we are not really anticipated. And when it occurs, then here we are. We have a new monster called crime. We have a new monster that called criminals, and that makes us fearful. Next. So there are now new situations coming, simply because we have now a big city, a more populous people, wider area, skyscraping building everywhere. Now we have problem. Yeah. What's the actual problem? As also mentioned by Mr. Bas, all cities now suffering of increasing crime rate, more dangerous public places, more intense hate crime, provocative social media, higher prevalence of sexual harassment, blah, blah, blah. We don't really deserve for this. We don't really plan for this. What we actually aim at the beginning is we have, we have a better life since we have more, more high-rise building. We have more people around. We have more public places. We have good transportation. But how come at the end we have this? How come at the end we have this kind of terrible things? If we know exactly from the beginning, then probably we don't have to dream about, living in a big city. If we know exactly that this kind of impact that will occur, then again, as I said before, it will be better for us to, to stay in the village and enjoying a local, tranquil, and calm situation. Yeah. And this kind of situations, ladies and gentlemen, is quickly responded by crime control officers. Here, I reckon that there are a representative from the police, a representative from the prosecutors, and also a representative from judges, local judges, and those are people who quickly responded to the new situations, including us, regarding crime rate, the more fearful situations, and all that kind of crime problems. Yeah, this may push crime control officers to perform policing. Yeah, so they simply want to arrest more people. They shoot, they shoot criminals. They indict people and put people in prisons simply because they want us to feel safe. They want us to feel secure. Yeah. So there are cyclical situations. Yeah. There are cyclical situations because why are cyclical situations? Because once we have more people in jail, like young men, young girls, and then being put by officers, by police, by prosecutors in jail, then there will be new problem coming because those people will be seen as a recidivist. Will be seen later on once they are released from the prison, they will be seen as the former criminals. And what happened then? We don't want to have friends with them. We don't want to have employees which are former inmates. We don't want to have staff having been in prison for a while. And then it creates another problem because those people are left unemployed, without job, without income. Then they have to rob again. They have to commit crime once again, to feed up themselves, and then it creates, another cyclical related problems. Yeah. So again, starting from our simple idea to have a better life in the place called city, but then goes, we have a problem regarding the recidivism as well as a new kind of criminals, which actually comes from the city inhabitants. Those are young girls, young boys, which actually are our own family. Next. Next, please. So then we came across very intriguing situation there. Yeah, there are people asking us, do you want to live in a fearful city? So why don't you move to the other city? Yeah, for example, when you are talking about Ambon, if Ambon is full of crime, for example, then people may provocatively asking you, why don't you move to the other city? Yeah, why don't you keep staying in Ambon while at the same time you are surrounded by criminals? Yeah, we are ready to be in alert situation all the time. We have to bring weapon anywhere we go, simply because we don't really believe upon the presence of the police. So we have to take the justice into our own hands, yeah, by bringing weapons such as knife or gun, and then we easily fall into the other kind of problems, yeah. When we thought purposely, yeah, shoot somebody, then we have to be in jail, yeah, despite the fact that we are not really have intention to do that. Do you aware that you may be restricted to go at night simply because you believe that that there are many begal, yeah, many local talks around, yeah. The dean of faculty of law saying that there are local talks in the Jembatan Merah Putih, right? So do we have to avoid Jembatan Merah Putih then at night? No, because if we avoid Jembatan Merah Putih, then we are nowhere, because that's actually the shortest way, of going to our home. So what then what actually we can do? We could do that, yeah. Keep crossing the Jembatan Merah Putih without being in a fearful situation, or asking people, or asking the police to be our guardian, or bringing our weapon, so to make us secure and feel safe. Yeah. So there are uneasy choices left to us for staying in the city. Yeah. So in regard to that, there is a grown half-hearted feeling. Yeah. Now we are coming to the question: do we really need that kind of a big city? Do we really need complete infrastructure? Do we really need a strong police organizations? Because at the end, still we have a feeling of being insecure. We still have a feeling of being fearful. We still have a problem of thuggery. We still have problem in regard to the online time, as Mr. Bas told us. Yeah. So what's the purpose of doing that? Yeah. Again, by living in the big city, by living in the more modern and sophisticated city, you have to pay taxes more. Yeah. You have to spend your money more than living in the small city. Yeah. So again, there are half-hearted situations. You have paid more for living in the big city, but on the other hand, you get crime threat, you get crime problems without being help ourselves in terms of avoiding from those problems. Next. However, to make it balanced, because I don't want to let you in a pessimistic tone. Yeah, I think the other hidden agenda of the seminar is to give you more optimistic sense in terms of understanding this kind of situations. So to make it balanced, despite the progress of urban development, which actually leads to the negative situation, as I told you before, crime phenomenon may not at all times be problematic in the city. Yeah. So sometimes we have such kind of a balance. Yeah. We ourselves may reproduce so-called social capital, where at the end we may find situation like this. Well, there are problems outside our home. We may face problem when we cross the Jembatan Merah Putih, but I believe it's not only us who feel that way. And I believe that once I myself involved in that kind of crime, I believe that all people beside me, all people who are watching me will help me, right? So by understanding that we have social capital, we may believe that there are people who will help us if there is something happen to us. If we are paying attention to what actually the most afraid, what actually the most fearful situation taken by the street criminals, such as Jamret, right, or Chopet, it's not the case of the police arrested. It's not the case that they are being shot by the police. No, the one that they are most afraid of is when we when we cry or when we shout out loud, yeah, saying that, well, there are thieves, there are thugs, and then by doing that, it attracts people, it attracts the public to commit vigilante to them. Yeah, we call it as a keroyokan. So it will be a nightmare for the criminals to be in keroyokan because at the end they will be bugged, they will be smug, and then it will put themselves to the end. So that's actually the Indonesians' balance, the Indonesians' ways of creating so-called justice. It's not really good. It's not really right in legal perspective, but it matters. It's not really right in terms of using a normative sense, but it works because if we believe that, well, people are encouraged to be in keroyokan with me, then I will be safe. By doing that, we may disregard all those situations that make us fearful, as I told you before. Yeah. Next. On the other hand, people like the police, prosecutors, judges, as well as the municipal officers, yeah, like Satpol PP, they suffer so-called Cinderella complex. Cinderella, you know Cinderella? Cinderella is actually the role from the drama who wants to be seen, who wants to be at the top, who wants to be on the stage all the time, starting from the minute one to the end of the session. He or she wants to be at the center of the public forefront, right? So by mentioning this kind of complex, what I want to emphasize is this. So crime control officers sometimes trap into two dichotomy. First, they want to create, so-called a high profile and top policing by creating more arrests, more shooting, more indictment, more prosecution, blah 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 to us, yeah. And then by doing that, they have rights to get more money, more police power, more police infrastructures, as well as more court buildings, more prosecutor building, and all infrastructure related to the justice. However, on the other hand, they also believe that probably the best thing to do in terms of reducing crime and asking us to feel safe is by asking our support, asking us to be involved in crime prevention by inviting us to participate in securing ourselves. So here we are. There are two dichotomies that sometimes make us into confusing situations. Yeah. First, on one side, they ask us to be more vigilant, but on the other hand, they ask us to stay alert, to participate, for example, by taking into crime patrol, yeah, so as to secure our neighborhood. However, one thing that I want to emphasize is this: that whichever extreme chosen, is it the tough policing or community involvement, such crime control costs may be unbearable by the city. Yeah, meaning that this, if we give more police power, more infrastructure to the crime control officers, more police cars, more ITs given to the judges. Basically, it means that we give more money, yeah, using our tax to them without at the end asking them for something in return adequately. So sometimes we say that, well, we have given you so much money and we don't want to give you much more money. We are asking you something in return. We are asking you the result of your work. Yeah. On the other hand, if we are talking about the community participation in cities, we are too busy to involve in terms of being involved in Siskam link, for example. Yeah, I'm using Indonesian words. Yeah. Why is it difficult to be involved in Siskam link? For example, the moderator. Yeah, he has to wake up at 6 o'clock. Yeah, in the morning. because at 8 o'clock he has a class, yeah, and at night he has to prepare lectures materials. He has to read books. He has to prepare proper PowerPoint presentations. So he has no time for involving in syscamping, right? So that's actually such kind of unaffordable situations, yeah, taken by city inhabitants, despite the fact it is good, yeah, it is invited by the crime control officers. Next, I'm referring to what actually Mr. Bas said in regard to the online crime. Yeah, Mr. Bas have said that online situation or digital world is to a certain extent contribute to the crime phenomenon in his city. Yeah, in my presentation, I'm not in a position to blame online situations as a cause of crime, because as a society we are not being introduced to crime situation in a quite long way compared to, for example, European people. Yeah, so we are using online situation just for make friends, just for contact people, just for sending message, simple message to our friends, our colleague. Yeah, while we are still waiting for the period that we are using online for example, for creating or for executing a bank account or bank transfer, for example. Yeah. Well, sometimes gradually there are more people, yeah, rather than going to the ATM and withdraw money, they're using virtual bank, using on gadget, for example. Yes, there are many people. However, we are still in the beginning. We are still in the preliminary stage in terms of utilizing online situation. However, if we do not stop the progress from the very beginning, then I believe that what happened in Mr. Bas City will also occur in Ambon or in the other part of Indonesia. Last one. So I'm now coming to the conclusion. So being big, being populous, being modern and complex is not always good to the city. Yeah, especially it's not always good to us as inhabitants. Yeah. Well, there are some positive points of having that. However, we have to take care as well regarding the negative impact at the same time. Yeah. So there are prices, there are costs for that, which is sometimes unaffordable, as I mentioned before. Yeah. Sometimes we think that it's too much giving money to the police. It's good. It's enough giving money to the justice people, because at the end they don't give us, such kind of a safety as we expect. Yeah. So then at the end, this creates half-hearted feeling among city inhabitants, including city administrators. So how to solve that from that kind of situations? Yeah. So I suggest that for all people who wants to be city administrators, to produce a well-planned city development. Yeah. So to produce a well-planned master plan, to produce a very rigid and covering all sides of blueprint of the city, including the negative impact when it happens. So don't give a false promise to the city inhabitants like ourselves that that the biggest city always merit of good things. But also we have to make clear, all the city administrators make clear that in any aspect of growing, there always be a bad side. In any aspect of the development, there always be drawbacks. And by doing that, it is up to us as city inhabitants to decide whether or not we want to we want to go through that kind of path or not. Because that actually the democracy is. Democracy is letting us as a public decides what will be happen to us, and not depending upon the administrators who decides whatever happened to us. That's all from me. Probably it is there is a kind of beneficial to all of you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a applause for Professor Dr. Adrianus Meliala. Wow, it's such a great presentation you have there, Professor. It's really opening our mind about crime in the urban area. Also, we talk about pros and cons. of living in urban city. Ladies and gentlemen, we will move to our next speaker as of Professor Dr. Shambhu Chakrabarti, LLM, LLB. Professor, are you there with us?
Yes, yes. Very good morning from India. It's just afternoon at 12. Thank you so much for inviting me to this session, and especially like on the topic that has been taken into consideration. That topic is, I think, perhaps the most challenging in the next decade to come. I also thank Patimory University for extending this invitation to me. So without further ado, let's start with the presentation. Can we come to the next slide? I think, Teresa is assisting me. Thanks, Teresa, for that as well. The first thing that I'd like to tell this august audience is that city life is not something, which is homogeneous in nature. Every person in the city has their own story, own background, own belief, own life struggles. And in this heterogeneous environment, there is always an area of debate between two individuals or two groups or multiple groups. This heterogeneity is so broad that it has almost all, the scales, the people belonging to all the scales of economic ladder. So there are people who are extremely rich, and there are also people who are extremely poor. All of them are living together in the city. So since we don't have a lot of time for individual speakers to talk, I have a very small and crisp area for the entire audience to understand. The first thing that I'm trying to establish in this talk is the diversity that we all have. And irrespective of this heterogeneous lifestyle, it is the responsibility of the state so that all the people can live together harmoniously. So it is not only the idea of inclusivity, but it's also the idea of giving equal opportunity to everybody. So this is the first part of my talk. The second part would be about whether all major cities are same. Can we say that the problem of city 1 is basically the problem of city 2? The answer to this question we'll be discussing, and it'll be in the negative because every city have their own specific challenges. There can be common challenges, however. And the fourth point that I'm going to discuss today is how we are going to evolve our legal system. What should be our policy to address the future of our cities? We know the past, we are going through the present, but what are the things that we need to develop in the next few years so that we can address the changing problems of our cities in the next decade? So let's come to the next slide, please. Now, this picture reflects New York City, which is there in US. And you can very well understand that this is a city which, everybody in this world knows to be the symbol of heterogeneity. That means, all type of people live here. And it's very, very congested all around. Let's come to the next city in the next slide. Now, this is Kolkata, like the place from where I'm talking at this moment in India. And here we find a lot of heritage. We find the modern structures coming up, and the city has a completely different charm. And there are different nuances of criminal activities also in here. Let's come to the next picture, next slide. And this particular slide talks about another city which is not far away from where I'm sitting at this moment, but that's another country. And this is Dhaka, which is in Bangladesh. There, the life of the people, the lifestyle, the way is completely different. I have been happy to supervise a scholar who is from Bangladesh, and he's working on the crime issues and the challenges, especially amongst the children in the Dhaka city area. And in my discussion with him, I found that the problem of city crimes starts with the children, with the kids. And it is these kids who needs to be, addressed at the right moment to prevent them from becoming a bigger, problem to the society. Let's come to the next slide, please. Now, we have already come across in the previous slides the heterogeneity, the diversity that we have to address, and the challenges of this diversification. Now, the question is, how can the states decide to take specific responsibilities to address those problems? Now, if we try to find out the different problems, we can group them into various clusters. One, conventional crimes. There are conventional crimes in the city. Number two, there are economic crimes. Okay, because in a city life, the majority of the people from the rural interface, they come down to the city in search of livelihood, in search of economic sustainability. And there is a huge gap between the law and the new modern ways that these people who are coming in order to sustain their life in a very strong and hard city life. And that, is another cluster. So there are conventional crimes, there are modern typical crimes, which is coming up on a very regular basis. And thirdly, those crimes which are going to come and which we can see has already arrived in many sophisticated countries. So there are three. One is classical or conventional crime. The other one is the modern criminal activities. And the third one, the crimes that have started to grow in various parts of the developed world and is slowly and steadily creeping in our countries, in our cities. It has not yet come, but it is coming in the days to come. Let's come to the next slide, please. So what will be the role? I will just tell you that it's the technology. I think that's going to play a very, very important role in addressing these modern and the new modern crimes, to say the least. And with the help of technology also, we can address conventional or classical crimes. Now, this first example that I've taken for the audience to have a look at is human trafficking. And human trafficking is one of the classical crimes which we can see almost in all jurisdictions, especially in India, especially in the border area of West Bengal, India, like Nepal, Bhutan. So there is huge influx of human trafficking. Now, the technology has not been very dominant to prevent these crimes here. But if you take the example of New York, if you take the example of the United States of America, they have supercomputers. They have the technological powers to survey online 24/7. And this live tracking is based on an algorithm. And this algorithm continuously searches almost all the data that is on a regular update on the web. Say, for example, there are some keywords like hide, HID, hide, or hiding place, or maybe travel, TRAVEL, and they have a different nomenclature, TRAVIL, travel. It's a special word. These type of words are very commonly used in various human trafficking groups and communities. Now, in India, in many countries, once a human trafficking incident happens, then it comes to the knowledge of the parents or the friends, then it goes to the police station, and then the search starts. And then they look for the mobile phone tracking and everything, comes into the scenario. But that's not the case in US. Whenever, a person is sending some information online, this software keeps on, searching for these keywords and starts beeping and informing the law enforcement agencies that these are the places where, these type of communications are happening. And this live tracking can immediately help the law enforcement agencies to intervene. So this is one case study that I would like everyone to have a closer look and maybe study further. Now let's come to the next slide with the next case study. Now this is the second cluster of crime that I was talking about. The previous was a classical crime. Human trafficking was one of them. The second crime that I'm trying to talk about are economic crimes. Now, economic crimes are basically crimes that deals with, number one, goods, and number two, services. Now, these goods or services can are generally, counterfeited. These, someone is selling something in the name of something else in order to have a market, which is something which is based on fraud or maybe misrepresentation at times. So how do we prevent a situation like this? I think, again, technology like blockchain technology can come as a very good assistance. What happens here is that this technology tries to find out and mark every item that's being manufactured with a specific number. Okay, that's a very flat interpretation. So that, it can be tracked where it ends up with. Similar to that of a car, a vehicle. When we buy a car, it has a specific engine number and a chassis number. So that means, wherever the car goes, wherever the chassis it goes, it can be tracked. It can be tracked by the law enforcement agencies where this car is. So I think, we have to slowly and steadily adopt blockchain technology in order to prevent counterfeiting of products. We have to bring in technological support like artificial intelligence. The previous speaker was very much focused on that as well, especially in the second last slide. And even when that's a bit of an expensive affair, but I think it's important that the modern cities should start adopting these technological things, if not at a bigger scale, but on a smaller scale. Maybe the universities can start researching on it, maybe develop new models of how this can be implemented at a much lesser expensive manner. Now, another example that I would like to give, I've not incorporated that in this particular slide, but I think it's important for all of us to know how technology can also prevent those crimes, those things which not really is considered to be within the periphery of intentional crimes, but crimes nonetheless. Like traffic signal violations and the traffic accident cases, loss of life, loss of innocent lives without their fault, maybe because of overspeeding, maybe because of something else. So these type of crimes can also be very nicely prevented by introducing artificial intelligence into the system with proper data, authenticated data. The technology can very easily identify what are the places where similar incidents are going to take place. So here we are in the third phase of policy making. We have to be equipped today in order to address a problem tomorrow. And this is exactly where the technology can be very handy. I'm not saying that artificial intelligence is without a flaw. There are many instances where it has been proved that artificial intelligence has a lot of challenges. So for example, if you feed a data like 2 + 2 = 5, 2 + 2 = 5 all the time, maybe when you ask this question to the computer, what is 2 + 2? It can say it's 5. So the entire idea of artificial intelligence being used in solving human problems, especially criminal issues, have been questioned by a number of ways. But then again, the first thing that I said when I introduced these slides is the use of the word authentication. So we need to incorporate, authenticate data. Like in the last year, how many accidents took place? What are the places? These data must be given correctly. What was the time when the accident took place? So, or when the crime took place. All these things taken together, I think then technology can be really, really handy, and the cities can develop a very strong defense mechanism to address these type of challenges. And this have been found to be very successful in many countries. Let me tell you this. Maybe on another discussion we can, or maybe in the question answer round, we can talk more about this. Let's come to the next slide, please. So what is the road ahead for us? So how the state should interfere? So as a matter of fact, we all know that crime is not only an offense against an individual, but it's an offense against the community at large. It's against the state. And that's the reason why, it's the state who have to intervene, not people like, common people. We cannot say this is the responsibility of the common people to prevent crime. It is the responsibility of the state. And it is even the responsibility of the state to make aware to the local people about their responsibilities to prevent crime. Okay. Say, for example, a few weeks back, the driver of this university, was sitting in the middle of something, and he looked very sad. So when I asked, what's the problem? Why you're very sad? He said that, I have been duped, by 12,000 rupees Indian currency. So I said, how you lost this money? He said that there was a caller who said that, he would sell something good for 12,000 rupees, which is actually available in the market for more than 25,000 rupees. So I thought it's helpful for me, for my family. Let's buy this for a cheaper amount. So he asked for the bank details and asked for the password, and the password is given, and the money was gone, and the product never come up, and the phone has gone switched off. So this type of problems, I think, we need to make the people aware, the common people aware of the organized criminals who are there in our cities and who can operate from a far off distance. So it's not necessarily the jurisdiction that the state is protecting, but it's the people whom the state needs to protect. So let's see what we have to do ahead. The next slide, please. Yes, so the first thing I would definitely suggest is slowly but steadily, we need to develop our infrastructure. Now, this infrastructure that I'm trying to highlight is focused on technological infrastructure, maybe more funding to the universities for research and developing new ways in doing that, or maybe sending some brighter students to those countries who are using these type of technologies to prevent crimes, and then come back and assess the system altogether. So I think this is very important. We need to have more technological infrastructure in our cities to prevent crimes. Next slide, please. Yes, I said about these 2 points already. Number one, we need authenticated data. I've already explained this, and we need adequate data for the supercomputers to really be of any help. And we need to make this aware to the law enforcement agencies, to the legislators, to the people whose money are going to be spent for developing these type of infrastructure, and also to equip with adequate training to those people who will be responsible to take care of the city crimes. So we need to have a complete new, mindset, complete new planning, and try to implement them maybe in smaller cities, maybe with a very limited amount of money and funding, to see to what extent it is acceptable, or to what extent it is successful. And maybe once you can prove it that way, then it can be huge investment can be done in furtherance of this. Next slide, please. So So I think it's important that we understand, at least try to anticipate with reasonable foreseeability what's going to come to our cities in the next decade. Okay, so with the advent of technology and the usage of technology in protecting criminal activities in the cities, we have also to know that there are certain other problems by using technology. We are directly, affecting the privacy rights of the people. By use of technology, we can keep on surveilling, and look into who are the political oppositions, the people who are against, and can take steps against them. The state can do that. It can be even religious ideologies, people who, in a heterogeneous community, like a city, I already showed 3 pictures. There are almost all religious beliefs, all political beliefs there in that particular small space. And with the help of technology, we have to be very careful that we don't misuse the technology to abrogate the rights of people. So I think, that is about my discussion. Let's come to the last slide. I think the next slide, please. And I think, that I think, we have to take this discussion forward in a more informal way, amidst the classrooms, amidst the research centers, amidst the policymakers, and come up to what is exactly the problem in a specific city. I say it already in the very beginning, every city have their own unique challenges. And I think, the ultimate objective is to have a better city experience in the years to come. So thank you once again. That's exactly where I rest my speech for the day. Thanks again, Pattimura University, for giving me the opportunity to bring in my observations on this area of research. Thank you once again, everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Professor. That's such a great presentation, Professor. Well, with that ends, we will move to our second session, ask Q and answer question session. Ladies and gentlemen, rule to be the questioner. First, you have to raise your hand. If you are on the online meeting, you can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom. And after that, please state your name, also your number identification as students, or also called name. After that, please state your question to whom you are asked, and also straight to the point. Ladies and gentlemen, because we have limited time, for this room, I limit it to just 2 persons for asking question. And then in the Zoom room, we have 1 question. And in our other social media, such as Instagram, we'll have 1 question only. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever want to ask the question, please raise your hand now. Okay, 1, 2. So it will be Gia and also Mr. Sofian, right? Okay. First chance will be given to Mr. Sofian. Just 2, I'm sorry. To the committee, please give a mic for Mr. Sofian. Is there any extra mic for Mr. Sofian, lady? Yes. Could Aldi please bring the mic to Mr. Sofian, Aldi? Aldi in here. Yes. Oh, yes. Mr. Sofian, please.
Thank you. Yes. Check. Yeah, my name is Sofian Arif. I come from Regional Office of Ministry Human Law and Human Rights at Maluku, and I'm also the student of Prof. Adrianus. I'm a doctoral student, and we have a data from our inmates and detainees in Maluku is about 1,537, both detainees and inmates, and about 30% there is convicted by 436 convicted by child protection, and 30 decency to violence against women and children, and 6 pornography, 9 domestic violence, and total about 483 is around about more than 31%. My question is, especially in Ambon or this Maluku, how the strategic plan for this government to decrease this potential convicted for this our children? And second, for this 483 case, there is more than victims. For our children, I mean, how the best treatment for this victim within these cases? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sofian, the question was for Prof. Adrianus.
Prof. Adrianus, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Prof. Adrianus, if you may, just answer the question from Mr. Sofian.
Right. What happened in Ambon, I believe, it's not that different compared to the other city of Indonesia. That some elements of society are left failed in terms of following up the good pathway of being a member of society. So I omit the fact that probably there are individuals who have a criminal mindset or having a psychopathic personality, or probably they have been in so-called extreme situations. I just assume that actually there are elements of society, member of individuals who have been failed in terms of following the most accepted way to become a good member of citizens, a good citizens of the public. Well, for example, if we believe that to be a good member of society, so children must go to the school, then there are children who are who are busily playing with gadgets, yeah, and then playing truancy, left school, and then being having no skill, yeah, when he or she becoming a mature person when they are growing up. Or there are somebody who are so poor in terms of going to school or having a skill in terms of having a job, then being left unemployed and having no income to feed up his family, for example. So how to reconcile these situations? The welfare approach has to be performed optimally by city administrators, so there are less and less members of the public, being left alone without any support in terms of, for example, in terms of not going to school, or not having skill for life, or not being involved in a social network. Yeah, so city administrators should prioritize, yeah, in many ways, allocate budget as much as possible, so that all people, all city inhabitants of Ambon, for example, being being involved in so-called development strategy. I understand the number of, as you mentioned, actually number of people who failed, to be captured by the government strategy, simply because probably the budget is too small for that, or probably because the bureaucracy prevents the governments to reach out as many possible people, to be involved in the governmental programs. So basically, if you ask for solutions, then we have to see whether or not the government has been effective and efficient in terms of exercising its authority, maximizing its budget to provide for public welfareness, so that at the end nobody in the city being in the situation as you mentioned. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor. We'll move to the next question from Gia. Aldi, could you give the mic for Gia, please? Yes.
Thank you.
Taken over by Miss Dia. Miss Dia, you may proceed.
Thank you for the time, Pak Harley and Prof. My name is Dia, and I'm from Faculty of Law, Patimura University. And my question, sorry for other speakers, but my question is for Prof. Adrianus. Mejua-jua, Prof. Yeah. I think that we all agreed that now the living values, the norms, and the culture of our society has changed. I remember when I was a teenager, when a criminal done by other teenager or juvenile, my parents will strictly remind me, see that as a bad example, and please do not do like that. If you do something like that, and please get out from the house, something like that. But now everything is changed. Not long we heard about viral news about the case about Mario Dandi case. And then not long for that, we hear again a case of Aditya Hasibuan. As we know that these two young men is come from metropolitan city, they come from educated parents, they come from healthy family. So, Prof, I would like to hear your opinion about this phenomena from criminology study. Thank you, Prof.
Profesor dulu, nanti ada yang dari sini. Okay, time given for Professor Adrianus Mariala to answer Mrs. Dia questions.
Hello. I'd rather not exaggerate the case of Mario Dandi and what's the other one? Ken Admiral or Hirudin, simply because here we have 55 million young people in this country, including young boys, young girls sitting here, having no problem with that kind of situation. So why we just emphasize upon those two cases, which is actually which actually performs the most extreme situations occurred by young men, while forgetting others. I think as a lecturer, as a professor, I'd rather, depending or relying upon the hope of Indonesia in the shoulder of those young people, the other 55 million people, right? Which, performing good, study hard, working hard to prepare for their own future. So again, ma'am, please be optimistic rather than pessimistic. Yeah. So then do not just concentrate upon the bad things as performed by those two cases, but look that the majority of Indonesian young people are actually They are baik-baik saja. They are actually in the good situation. They are very serious in terms of preparing their own future. Thank you.
Thank you again, Professor. As for this question and answer session, on this one we will close and we will moving to the Zoom meeting. As for in Zoom meeting, the questioner will be Andi Munasfir. Andi Munasfir, you may ask your question. Please state it. Whom do you ask? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My voice clear?
Yes.
Hello? Okay.
I'm sorry, Andy. Are you there? Are you with us? You still turn off your mic? Can you unmute your sound? Okay.
Hello?
Mr.
Hello?
Andy, you may still.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you clearly, Mr. Andy.
Okay. I'm sorry for not present at the university. I am on duty now. I'm in Jakarta. Okay. My name is Andi Munaswir, student of postgraduate Patimura University. The first, my opinion about why the numbers of crime increase in urban areas. I think one of the reasons is the using of ETLA, electronic traffic law enforcement. In the other side, it's make the policeman job more easy because the using of CCTV, the cameras. But the other hand, it's increase the crime, especially the robbery, or we used to call begal at the night. Why is like that? Because the police doesn't make a massive patrol anymore. I think it's not a good policy. One question for Mr. Sambu Chakrabarti from India. Sir, do you have success story about how to decrease the number of crime at the villages in India, sir? I want to tell you, in our territory, it's a common problem. The fighting, the violence between two neighbor villages, it's almost make us desperate. It's painful. We cannot present the prosperity if the social stabilization is not good. That's all. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Andy. Do you state your question for Professor Shambu, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Professor Shambu, you may please answer the question.
Yeah. Thank you for your observation, first of all. And I think that's a very right observation, because if you take into consideration the various types of criminal activities that's happening around, and the problem that the law enforcement agencies face. So these two are always one after the other. Like if the law enforcement agencies are smart, then the people who are violating the law are smarter. And when the law enforcement agency is now equipped to get hold of that smarter thing, the people who are in the zone of violating the things have already gone 3 stages ahead, because it's very easy for one person to move from one particular place to the other, and not that simple for the entire infrastructure, because law enforcement agency is not one place or one person. It's about everything coming up together. So it takes time. And this is the reason why, how smart the system is. It'll still fall short of the expectation of the people. And for that, I think the future, again, I think, is in the investment in technological advancements and implementing those things in the challenges that you just stated here. And even the previous speakers, when the crime rate, if you take into the consideration the type of crimes, you'll find that the CCTV cameras are so rampantly used nowadays. The mobile tower locations these are now the sine qua non of moving into this particular point. So I think it's important that you have to engage more into these new ways of addressing the existing problems. Now, apart from your observations, which I really appreciate, you raised a specific question. Now, can you just repeat that question to me? Because of the technological issue, I could not really hear that. Can you just come down to your question specifically?
Thank you, Professor. And for the last question will be for Mr. Mayor of Vlissingen, Dr. Andes Basvan Tilar. Mr. Tilar, one of our students, namely Alia Talia from fourth semester in Student of Law, are asking your question. Besides how to deal with this crime, combining criminal law, administrative law, collaboration with all the stakeholders, prevention and repression, is there any other effort besides those mentioned from the source? Is there any way of handling the crime in the urban area? That's the question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think, and you can see that line through all the speakers. What we are looking for is a kind of a balance in approach. Yes, we need criminal law sometimes. Yes, we use administrative law, but we also, as Professor Meliala pointed out, we also need the social capital. We need the cooperation of the people and the cooperation of all actors in preventing crime. And I mean with that also the cooperation with care services, with youth workers on the streets who mobilize this social capital, who can really approach people in a personal way to prevent crime. Also, those aspects are also very important. So I would say yes, we need the repression, but the prevention is mainly in a personal approach, in using social work, in using youth work, and the repression in a balanced combination. I would say that as an answer on your question.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. That will end all of our question and answer session. We will move to conclusion. We see now that the registered number crime are decreasing, but we can see the type of subversive crime that also is happening, such as cybercrime, using technology that could impact our way of life. Because of that reason, we have to reinforce our approach of time, mainly through the cooperation and combining administrative law, criminal law, and also the prevention to all the stakeholders. Also, play our role in society effectively and carefully, but the challenge in urban area, such as privacy right, political ideology, religious ideology, needed to be suppressed in order to have heterogeneous experience in our city. Lastly, being big, populous, modern, complex is not always a good to be city. Prices for that which is sometimes unaffordable. And this has created half-hearted feeling among the city inhabitant and city administrator. W.E. Du Bois ever said that the chief problem in any community cursed with crime is not that punishment of the criminal, but the prevention of young from being trained to do criminal. Also, Bang Napis always says, remember, crime is not solely because there is an attention of perpetrators, but also there is opportunity. As of Indonesian said, ingat, kejahatan terjadi bukan karena ada niat dari para pelaku, tapi juga karena ada kesempatan. Waspadalah, waspadalah. On behalf of Criminal Law Department, Faculty of Law, Patimura University, I would like to thank all of our speakers for joining us our seminar today. It was an honor for our university and also especially for our criminal law department. All of your explanation will enlighten us and increase our knowledge to fight decreasing crime in the urban area. I'm Haru, your moderator for today's seminar. Sign out. Thank you for your attention.
And thus marks the end of our seminar. Professor Miliala, I hope you don't mind me just standing right here because obviously I couldn't just wedge myself up in there with you both. It's too much of an honor. I couldn't take it. And to the Mayor of Vlissingen and also to Dr. Chakrabarti, it is an honor to see you both again doing a partnership with this faculty. It is such a pleasant view to see you guys again. And Professor Mulyala, amazing materials. And to all of the active participants and to each of the inquiries that have been asked, thank you so much for your participation today. Please give a round of applause to yourselves and also for everyone here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, before we move on, there will be an award being given out to the best inquiries that have been given to the materials that were given out. Now to Mr. Harley Salmon, I ask of you to please name the best inquiries that you will now present the awards to.
Thank you so much, Indah. For the best question and answer is also Mr. Sofian and Ibu Dua. Also, Gia, if you are still want the question, but we don't have many times, so you are still gonna get the prizes. Also, in IG, we have Alia Talia. And also in Sumiti, we have Andi Musafir. So that's all, Indah.
Thank you so much to the best inquiries. Please step up to the stage and accept your prizes. To the previously named inquiries, please step up and receive your awards. I give the honor to Dr. J. Hehanusa, SHM Home, to present the awards to the best inquiries. Ma'am, the floor is yours. Everyone give a round of applause to these brilliant minds that stands before us today. Yes. Congratulations to the best inquiries. I hope you will always use the information that you have received from your questions and continue to use them and share them forward. Thank you so much. And now to give out the placards for the speakers, now I will present the Vice Dean of the Law Faculty, Dr. Elsa Tool, SHMS. And then there will also be the Head of Committee, Dr. Yanti Amelia Lengerisa, SHMH. And also, last but not least, Dr. DJ Hehanusa, SHM Home. Please, to the named honorables, step to the front and please give out the placards to the speaker. Excuse me, Professor Meilala. Professor, if you will. Thank you so much. Now to the documentation team, please snap a photo of these 4 billion people standing in front of us right now. And now to present your play cards. Thank you so much for everyone. And also for our long distance speakers, I will have you all know that your certificates will be sent to you via Zoom. I hope that's enough for you. And also thank you so much for participating again. And really, personally, nice seeing you again. Thank you. Everyone, today has been a long, tiring day, but also it has been a useful, informative day because you didn't just spend your time sitting here and doing nothing. You sit here and you consume so many knowledge from so many different people from so many different communities. And they have so many professions that devise them all together, and yet they manage to bring us as one. I would like to thank you all so much for coming here and making this event a memorable one. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless everyone. Have a nice journey home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Good. Got it.